Right. There we go. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I am recording this session, and I also recorded the session on Tuesday that we had. We'll have both of those recordings available because we had a lot of questions at the end of the one on Tuesday, and we might have different questions today. So we want to make sure that we encompass everyone's questions and they have the opportunity to hear all of those. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Wolf, and I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at Indiana Furniture. And joining me today is Paula Schmidt, and most of you, I'm sure, know Paula. She's the Director of Marketing. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our brand and how you can all help to ensure that customers see a unified message across all communication methods that go out from anyone within the organization. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paula to get us started, and we're just going to kind of go through this together. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the chat feature, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you're comfortable doing that. Either way is perfectly fine. So you ready, Paula?
You bet.
All right.
First of all, I just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. I know everyone is busy right now, but we felt like this was an important enough topic for us to be able to share it with you today. And we'll try to make it quick and thorough at the same time so that you guys can get back to what you do each and every day. I wanted to talk about the importance of branding and why we're even having this discussion today. It's actually been about 4 years since we've sent any information out to all of our employees about our current brand standards and how to use our logo and other types of assets. So we felt like it was the right time, especially with us celebrating 116 years yesterday, to go ahead and just give everybody a refresher on what our brand is and how we are going to be distinct in the marketplace. It's also an opportunity for any of those new individuals who have joined our company during that time frame to get a better understanding of how we go to market with our brand. So why are we doing this today? As you can see here on the screen, it truly only takes seconds for a customer to evaluate and decide whether or not they're going to use our brand. Think about yourselves and how you shop. Think about going to Amazon. There are so many things that look alike. How do you determine and choose which brand you're going to pick? And a lot of times you do that within seconds or after evaluation of understanding some of those things. So keep that in mind. People are doing with our brand each and every day as well. What is branding? Well, a lot of people think that's just marketing's job, but that's the reason why we're having this discussion today, is because each and every one of us play a role in the brand. Of course, marketing does a lot each and every day to do that and to push it forward in the marketplace, but really it's each and every one of us that build a brand. And we'll talk more about that here in a few minutes. But a brand, as defined by Webster's dictionary, as you can see here, is a name, a term, a design, symbol, or any other feature that identifies one seller's goods or services as distinct from those of others. And I think that's really the important key there. What makes us distinct from others? And that's what we're going to drive through today. Stephanie's going to walk you through some different elements and how you can play a role in helping us be distinct in the marketplace. First, let's take a look at some other brands that are currently, I'm sure you're very aware of. Each of these logos represent something in the marketplace. And I know if I ask any of you on the call to identify what this brand is, all of you would be able to do that without issue. Now, I know somebody can look at me and say they've spent millions, even billions of dollars getting their brand out to the marketplace. And that's very true. They have. But they didn't always start like that. They started at a place of getting everyone in their company on the same page. Everybody moving in the same direction, everyone singing the same tune, and everybody being consistent with the brand, the logos, the colors, the fonts, and everything else that makes up who we are. On the next slide. Is it Stephanie? Sorry, Stephanie. I thought I had one more. Anyway, over to you, Stephanie, on how we can be distinct in the marketplace.
Thank you. So brands and colors are linked because color offers us that instantaneous method for conveying meaning and message without words. So color is the visual component that people remember most about a brand. And then that's followed very closely by shapes and symbols, and then numbers. And actually, the last thing are the words. So think about all of those logos that Paula showed you on the last slide. I'm sure that you instantly recognize most, if not all, of those logos, not only because of the image, but because of the color of the image. So, for instance, if the Target bullseye had been green instead of red, your mind would have questioned if that was really Target's logo, because you've only ever been exposed to it in red on so many occasions. So, we too, just like Target, have our own brand colors. So we actually have 6 brand colors, but 2 of them are what we consider our primary colors and the ones that are you're going to use more often. So those are the Welcoming Gray and the Traditions Blue. And these colors were chosen because they really communicate stability of the brand while still being approachable. So those 2 colors are the ones that you're probably going to use as well as see the most in any sort of marketing material, and in your emails and all of those things. Then we have the 4 supporting colors, which are the Refreshing Citron, the Modern Gray, the Hoosier Red, and the Timeless Teal. And these colors clearly are bold and bright and cheerful. So when we combine these colors with our primary colors, we really feel like it speaks to the Indiana Furniture experience that we want our customers to become familiar with. Now, you may or may not have these colors already on your computer or in the programs that you're using today. And if you need help getting those in there, reach out to anyone on the marketing team and we can help you with that, to make sure that those are available to you in the correct forms and the codes that go along with those colors. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about fonts. And the font that a brand chooses can have a huge impact on the way the brand communicates with the public. So choosing the right brand font is a detail that separates the amateurs from the professionals. And clearly, we want to be seen as the professionals. So when they're used well, fonts have the power to communicate your brand personality and build trust and awareness with your target audience. So it's not, we always think it's not just what you say, but it's how you say it. So keep that in mind whenever you're using one of these fonts. So our primary brand font is Gotham Narrow. So it's a feel-good typeface. It has a timeless, approachable, credible kind of look to it. And it was actually inspired by mid-20th century architecture. So the letters are very clean and easy to read. And then our secondary font, which is to be used in conjunction with the Gotham Narrow to really highlight it in things like headers, subheaders, call outs. That's going to be the Chronicle Text G2. And this text is a little bit more bold and really shows that strength and stability that we want to convey to our customers. Now, we understand that Gotham Narrow may not be available on all programs that you have today as an available font. So it is completely acceptable to use Tahoma in its place. Tahoma should be pretty standard in any program that you're using. And, just like the brand colors, these fonts help convey that unified message and personality to our customer. So please avoid using unapproved colors or fonts in any customer-facing communications. And again, if you need help getting a font onto your computer or in a program for use, please reach out to anyone in marketing and we can certainly walk you through how to do that. So Paula, now it's your turn to go next.
Okay, so I know some of you are sitting there thinking, really, the font's really that important to people? And it really is. It's a part of our distinction. In fact, if we go to the next slide, we'll see, what if everybody used the same font for their logos? This is what our world would look like. So some of the same brands that we saw on the previous slide now are being shown in the exact same font across the board. So Nike, as you know it, Shell, Ferrari, all of this using the same font. This is what our world would look like, and it would be very boring, and we would get sick of that font. And another thing is that when you think about fonts, you may not dislike any, or maybe there's some that you love, but honestly, if you go to Google and you say, what's the most hated font in the world? There are a lot of people that hate Comic Sans. In fact, these are just a few of the memes that you will find out there. I had no idea that there was so much passion of hatred behind this font, but this isn't the only one. There are others, but it does make a difference on what font that you are using and how you use that font. That's why it's critical that we stick to the consistency of our Gotham Narrow and or the Tahoma on each of our documents and everything else that we use. Now, I love the one that's on the left-hand side. Somebody obviously had posted a note on a door that said, please keep the door closed. Thank you. And the response was, please don't use Comic Sans. We are a Fortune 500 company, not a lemonade stand. So although we ourselves may not be Fortune 500 company yet, the idea behind that stands true, which is we are close to a $50 million company, and we have to be consistent and show professionalism in the marketplace by using the distinct fonts that we have selected. So keep that in mind. You can read some of the other memes on your own, but I'm sure there are other fonts that are in the marketplace that feel the same way. So these are the reasons why we have standards to put in place so that we don't offend anyone in the marketplace by using a font that they may not like, or in this case, they actually may hate. So on Comic Sans behalf, in its defense as a font, it is one of the easiest fonts to read if you are suffering from dyslexia. So there is a positive with that font. It's not all hatred.
Oh, goodness. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about our logo. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do with our logo. And then on the next slide, I'll talk about what not to do with our logo. So the logo, our company logo is really the touchstone of our brand and one of our most valuable assets. And for this reason, it's important to maintain its credibility each and every time that we use it. So just a few things about how to use the logo. You want to use it at a size that is legible, significant, and appropriate for the scale of the piece being produced. The legibility can suffer if the Indiana Furniture logo is reproduced too small. So the total width should be no smaller than 1 inch or 72 pixels, depending upon which program you're working in. You might be working in pixels. But then on the other hand, you don't want to oversize the logo either. And, we're all proud of our company. We all want to share out the logo, share it on our documents, but it doesn't have to be billboard size on like a standard page or in files and presentations. Be thoughtful about the sizing and approach. And then in addition to that, you always want to make sure that the logo doesn't feel crowded or like it's getting ready to fall off the page. So it's important that you maintain some clear space around the logo, some white space. And the general rule of thumb would be about 1/7 of the height of the logo, however you're using it. So just kind of keep that in mind. We don't want it to feel crowded or as though it was an afterthought. Just make sure it has its own place on the page. And in most cases, you guys are going to want to use the logos that are inside the gray box on the screen. So that's going to be your welcoming gray, your traditions blue, the black, or the white. The other colors are going to be used very sparsely and really only for special occasions. You won't see those colors very often being used at all. So really stick with those ones in the gray box for anything that you might be producing. If you feel like you have a need for one of those color logos, but you're like, oh, I'm not sure, reach out to Paula or Jennifer or Danelle. Any of those gals can answer that question as to which color you should be utilizing for what you're working on. Okay, so then now we are going to talk about what not to do with the logo. So just a few things here. It should never be blurry. Want to make sure that it's always clear and crisp and without distortion. So just, verify that you've got a good copy of that logo on your page. You never want to stretch it or skew it in any way. And also don't add any filters. Some programs will allow you to add like glow, reflection, shadow. Please don't ever utilize any of those features with the logo. We also want to avoid using backgrounds that visually compete with the logo. So the pink and yellow on the screen, don't do that. That's a what not to do for sure. We also don't want to box the logo in. Again, keep that blank space around the logo so that it kind of stands on its own, has its own place on your document page. And then lastly, don't redraw or alter the logo in any way. We like it just the way it is. So just keep it as it is whenever you get it from the file. Speaking of, all of the files that you can utilize with the logo are available out on the shared drive, have access for everyone. It's going to be in a folder 01, branding materials and templates. And you'll find those logos out there. What you won't find are any of our old logos. So those are there at the bottom of the screen. If you have those logos on any of your documents, whether they be an internal or an external document, please replace them with one of the logos that you would find in that shared folder. And then also, we're no longer using the tagline, welcome to work. So if you have that on any of your documents, go ahead and remove that as well and save your document as new moving forward. All right, next up, we're going to talk about email. So this is going to be the most common form of communication that almost everybody on this call will have with our customers. So think of your email as an extension of any other marketing material that we may provide. So not everything is going to come from the marketing team. So you have just as much of an impact on our customers as we do. So for this reason, using those company approved colors and fonts and logos is really very important in email communication, and as it is in all of the other forms of communication. And I do want to mention that although we haven't talked about black as a brand color, you can always use black for any document or email that you might be creating. So even though it wasn't listed, black is acceptable as well. And so some of the things that we want to make sure we're not doing is backgrounds. So if you have a background in your email currently, we ask that you please remove that. It might look really cool on your screen, but we have to remember that sometimes people have to print these emails, and that's a waste of toner or ink, and we don't want to be a proponent of that, clearly. And it can also make the emails kind of hard to read in other programs. Not everyone's using Outlook. So we just don't want to use those backgrounds. So if you're currently using a background, go ahead and remove that. Just the white screen behind your emails is perfectly fine. We also want to avoid using script or any other font to sign your name. This should only be in Tahoma as our brand standard. You can also, with your email, use Calibri. That is the Outlook standard, and that's perfectly fine as well. Your email's probably set up in Calibri as a default, and that's perfectly fine. And again, this just goes back to the fact that not everyone is using Outlook in order to read their messages. So what may look really cool or really nice internally or on your screen may look foreign or very out of place on their screen whenever they receive it in a different program. So if you're doing that today, if you could just change that over to Tahoma, that would be great, or Calibri, that would be great. Another thing I want to mention is that our IT department is working hard to correct all of our logos. So you might notice that your logo on your email signature line changes overnight one day. That's fine. Bob and his team are working on that now. Those should be completed by mid-April. Now, the thing I want to tell you is that it's a process. So your teammate might have theirs changed a week or so before yours gets changed. So don't panic. You don't have to reach out to IT. We will communicate. We'll send an email out and let you know when that process is done. And if for some reason yours didn't work at that time, then we'll have you reach out to IT and let them know. But it is a process. So give them a few more weeks to get that done, and we'll let you know when that process has been completed. All right. And then next up, we'll talk a little bit about templates. We have some templates out there for your use just to make your job a little bit easier whenever you need one of these. And just like the logos, you'll find these in the same folder where you will find those logos. So you've got your logos and then you've got your templates. And there's a fax, a memo, and a letterhead, and I believe those are all out there in Word form. But then there's also a PowerPoint presentation out there that you can use to build a PowerPoint when you need to. We know that a lot of you don't need to do that on a regular basis. So if you ever need help building a PowerPoint that's going to be for your customer or for anyone outside the company, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to help you with that. But there is one out there that you can kind of get the ball rolling and get started if you would like to try that. All right. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about social media and how every single employee can really be involved in promoting Indiana Furniture on social media. And I did some research on this, and according to a recent, I think it was a Google study, I didn't make a note of who did the study, but I think it was Google, 84% of people trust recommendations from friends, family, and colleagues over other forms of marketing. So when you like and share and invite and comment on Indiana Furniture platforms, your friends can see that and they're more likely to do the same. So your efforts on social media are actually more impactful than our efforts of putting the information out there. What you do with it once it's there is what's really going to attract other people to our platforms. So what does that mean? Why would we want you to do that? Well, it not only helps to build brand awareness for Indiana Furniture, it also helps to promote us in our local community, because probably a lot of your friends and family are local. And then as we continue to grow, we're going to be able to attract higher quality job candidates. So maybe your friends or family could actually become a coworker someday. So continue, if you're not encouraging people on social media, with Indiana Furniture, we would just appreciate if you would make an effort to do that. Just occasionally like or share something that we put out there. The birthday post from yesterday is a great one to like and share and really talk about how much you love the company that you work for. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Paula.
Please don't let that comment that Stephanie made that your family could be working next to you scare you off from promoting social media. If you love your family, it's great. But if you don't be afraid to still use social media. But I just want to drive home that consistency is the key part here. Stephanie's gone through our logo, our fonts, how to use email, and how to use some of the other things. And really, it's all of us working together to make it consistent. Whether you feel like a document's internal only or if it's going to be external, they both need to be converted. You never know when a document might need to be used to show to someone else outside of our company, or might be used in another way that you just weren't expecting. So please make those changes across the board. A little note that we found also in another study is that when companies have logos and documents across different outlets and tools that don't match up, it makes customers feel uneasy and unsure about the company's validity. So it's really critical that we have consistency across the board so that we can build trust and respect in the marketplace, and that we don't give anybody that uneasy or unsure feeling just because we didn't have a logo switched out, or our fonts are Comic Sans, or we had something else different in place. So please definitely take a look at anything that you might be utilizing today and try to make that change. We understand that it's not going to happen overnight. We understand that you may have multiple documents that need to be changed. If you need assistance or need help getting started, just reach out to me or anyone else on the marketing team. We'll be glad to help. We have other things that you will see around the company that still have older logos on them. For example, some of our trucks still have the old logo. Some of the signage in front of our facilities still have the old logo. We're completely aware of that, and we're working to get that. Some of those are a little bit more cost prohibitive at the moment. So once we have the funding to make those changes, we're going to definitely hop on that and make it happen. So I just ask that you guys take a look at yours and make every effort that you can to make those changes. But as all of this said, I talked about what a brand really was. And honestly, the most important facet of a brand is really the people behind it. It isn't a person or a team like marketing. It's truly having everyone, all of you, from manufacturing to the CEO, to our salespeople, to our interns that may come in for the summer, to customer service, to accounting. All of us working together to shape the perception of the brand. Our logos, our name, our campaigns are merely just vessels that need to be filled with meaning. It's all of our people who bring that meaning, passion, and value to those expressions. However, we have to be consistent with those logos and other items. Otherwise, we'll provide mixed messages, and we don't want that. So keep being who you are and keep building our brand and making it stronger. And the face of our brand, as we change those logos and get everything consistent, will just only help that experience for our customers. So again, be the brand. You can use that motto any day of the week that you want here at Indiana Furniture. I would love it if you did. But again, whether it's internal or external, if you need help, please let me know. Just let's all get everything changed over. Again, I know it takes time, and I know it's not always easy, but we're here to help if you need it. Stephanie, do you have anything else?
I don't. Does anyone have any questions or anything that was unclear that you need me to review again?
I'll just like to say, I know they're quiet.
Can we hear some of the questions that people brought up?
And the other day. So I think I touched on a lot of it. One of the questions that came up the other day was about internal documents, whether or not the internal documents needed to be updated. And so I made sure to include that today, that yes, we definitely want to update internal documents to reflect the correct fonts, colors, and logos. And a couple of the other questions that came up were things that Paula was going to maybe work on for another meeting, or maybe a communication that might go out. Paula, can you remember what those were? My mind is a little blank right now.
Yes, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself and I couldn't get that to work, but yes, you're correct. We have been looking at ways to help you be more consistent with your voicemail messages as well as your out of office messages. We were going to look at maybe adding those items to this training, but chose to just keep it really to the logos, fonts, colors, and some of the other items that we discussed today, like email. Down the road, we'll be sending more communications about voicemail and the out of office messages. That came up because Tammy Wessel was concerned that everybody uses out of office in a different way. And although you may not think your email or your communication is going to be shared, in some cases it ends up being shared with the customer just because you're on that email train, if you will. So we'll be looking into that, and we'll be able to share that with everyone as well. Another question that came up was the use of whenever you're doing a virtual meeting, what's the best use of a background, or what should that be? And in sales and marketing, we put a list of tips together that we'll be more than happy to share with everyone in the company that will just help give reminders on how best to do a virtual meeting, as far as ensuring that you don't have the background noise, ensuring that your system works or calling in, and if you have a messy background, making sure you use a virtual picture or just not even showing yourself that day, for example. But we can share those as well.
We have another question from someone asked, I'm sorry, I don't know who this is, B. Arnold. What is the
Brian.
Brian, oh, thank you. What's the font size that they should be using? We didn't really talk about font size specifically.
The font size is going to depend on what document or what you're doing and using. So I think for the most part in a letterhead, I think it's anywhere from, usually most people are seeing a 10 or 11, or maybe even goes up to 12, just depends. But I think that is, we don't have a standard font size because it's really going to be appropriate depending on what your document is or your program is.
She did clarify and say in email. So I think 10, 11, or 12 fits for emails for sure.
Yeah, I think it's typically 10 or 11. And if you yourself are having issues seeing the font, there is a way to enlarge the font on your screen only versus it enlarging it for the rest of the world to see. So I would stick to 10 or 11.
Sorry, gang, I'm fast approaching 50 and I can't see any. So if you get an email from me, it's probably 12. Oh, any other questions anybody might have? And if you think of something after, feel free to reach out to anybody on the marketing team. We're happy. You can email us, you can call us, whatever you're comfortable with. This will also be available. This recording will be available. So if there's any of your team members who were just not able to be on either one of these calls, we understand everybody's very busy and everybody's schedules are very different. So both of the days will be available to listen in. The message in the middle is pretty much the same, but the end of each one is a little bit different depending upon the questions that were asked. So you feel free to listen to both of them in their entirety, or just the end of one of them after you've listened to the full one of one of the days. So, all right. Well, that's it. We actually gave you back a few minutes. We gave you 12 minutes back because I think I scheduled this until 3:45. So you got a little bit of time back in your day. But thank you guys so much for joining in. And we'll have another presentation, something like this in the future as well. So look forward to that.